If you ask somebody out there what they find to be nostalgic, most of people would agree that it comes back from their childhood. Me personally, growing up as a child, I was a video game nerd. All I would do was play video games. I was an indoor kid, and I had various different consoles, most notably PlayStation 2 or GameCube. And while I did have a lot of childhood favorites, like a majority of the DreamWorks games that I touched on in my previous video, those were in all honesty just the tip of the iceberg. My main love growing up was easily going to be Scooby-Doo. But my love for the show expanded a lot more and far than just the endless amounts of movies and TV shows that we were getting through the mid-2000s. It also expanded way out through the games, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you, it's gonna be very hard for me not to be totally biased for all the games I'm about to conclude in these videos. I love and adore these games so much. They are such a core memory to my childhood that it's going to be really hard for me to try to pinpoint anything wrong or anything bad with them. But I have to be biased. I have to rank every single one of them on a truthful matter, and that's exactly what I plan on doing for you guys. There are quite a bit of games to go around in here. Not as many as you think, but a good bit. So without further ado, let's dive into every single Scooby-Doo video game out there. Just a quick little disclaimer before we dive into here. I'm only going to be playing this on the mainline consoles. I'm not playing any of the point, drag, and click PC games. I don't really view that as a real game. I'm sorry, that's just me, but if you disagree with that, that's totally cool, but I don't view it as that, so only console games in here. Now for this first game, we're going to dive way back into the 90s with Scooby-Doo Mystery. This was released on the Super Nintendo all the way back in 1995, and this was the very first Scooby-Doo game ever released, and it definitely shows. This is not a lot of context surrounding this game. You basically just walk left and right. It's a Super Nintendo game. There really isn't much to take from this. You play as, I'm guessing, both Scooby and Shaggy in this game, and you're walking around collecting clues. You got your cute little health bar in the top corner. You meet, the gang, Fred, Velma, Daphne, and they give you different objectives or different clues to look for and succeeding. You have a little lives bar, much like you did with every other Super Nintendo game. I'm sorry, there's really not a lot to talk about for this game, and I didn't grow up playing this one. I just had to go find a simulator for this to actually find it and play it. On top of this game having very little of anything to do, you really just pick up and drop items, look around for things. There isn't even any voice acting in this game. There's no Scooby snacks to collect. There isn't a whole lot to do in this game, and not a lot of people still own a Super Nintendo, and it wasn't the most popular console out there, so this game really wasn't widespread or known throughout the video game community. That's not to say there aren't people out there that genuinely do enjoy this game and maybe have even grown up with this game, and if you have, I'm all for it. Go for it. But for me personally, didn't grow up in this game, and the little time I had playing it, didn't see a whole lot that was groundbreaking or anything, especially for a Super Nintendo game. There are much better games out there to be playing on the Super Nintendo besides this one, so I'm going to go ahead and give this game an F on the tier list, just because I didn't really find any really enjoyment out of it, and there's much better games throughout the list, trust me. Now this next Scooby-Doo game kind of follows suit with the mystery game, but it's a little bit more better because it's more interactive. This one is called Scooby-Doo Classic Creep Capers, and this one, instead of the Super Nintendo, was released on the Nintendo 64. This one feels like so much more of an upgrade compared to the previous one. First of all, it's a lot more interactive. At this time, video games were evolving, and it was more than just moving left and right to get to point A and point B of the entire game. This one feels more open world. While we don't have our own diagonal camera to look around, each venue has a different camera perspective. This one, you're playing as either Shaggy or Scooby, but the difference is you're actually playing as one of them. The other one, you were just playing as pretty much both of them, and you didn't control them. This one, you can control between Shaggy and Scooby. It's a hell of a lot more interactive. There's a lot more things to do in this game. Now, the graphics are definitely not the best, and you could tell they haven't aged very well. This honestly feels like I'm playing this off of a literal Windows 98 computer, which ironically, this game also came out in the 90s, if you couldn't tell. Once again, there is no voice acting in this game, but we do get better text footage for what the characters are saying, and it just feels a lot better than the little white character bar that we see pop up in the last game. This one, we have character icons on the side of them to know exactly who's talking and what they're saying. Again, much like the other game, for this one, there isn't anything really special outside of it just being a classic. Unfortunately, again, For this one, I did not grow up playing. I know. Trust me, these are the only two games in this entire list that I did not play. But it seems very nostalgic, and it does seem like a very fun game. The only thing confusing about it is, anytime you run from one area to the next, the camera pins in a whole separate location. It doesn't follow you, it just drags you to another area, which can be very aggravating, as you just saw the glitch that I had, where I was in one area and the camera just went to the next one. Outside of that, the game itself isn't that bad. The gameplay is pretty solid on it, and despite the aggravating camera work and feeling like you're running into nowhere, this can be a very enjoyable experience if you know what you're doing. Throughout the game, you're going to collect different objectives that help you move on, like keys to open up different crates and various things. There is a very nice little textures to it. Despite this being a 2000s game, the environments really aren't that bad. I mean, we're walking around in a jungle here, and I know the skies are very oddly blue, but when you get to this area, it's not terrible. For the year 2000, they got some pretty decent graphics going on over here. I guess if I had to pinpoint a problem, it would be that there's not a lot of combat system in here. You're honestly, when you see an enemy, you can just run away from it. There's nothing you can do to stop it, which is pretty easy because you literally just move on to the next area, and they're not there. So honestly, the enemy part's kind of stupid, but it's not that bad. The game itself isn't even that long. It took me just a little bit over 2 hours playing this, and that's only because I didn't know what I was doing. If you do know what you're doing, this could probably take you about like an hour and a half to complete. There's only 4 chapters amongst the game to play through, so there isn't a whole lot of game over here, and that's to be expected from some of these older games. But all in all, Scooby-Doo's Classic Creep Capers, I'd say it's worth a try. If you haven't played this game yet, it definitely hasn't aged as well as we thought, but it is worth a try, and I could see some people growing up and feeling nostalgic from this game. Hell, I was getting nostalgia and I didn't even really play this game. Outside of that, guys, I definitely recommend you try it and just go for it, whatever. Alright, now we cut into the meat and potatoes of this list, ladies and gentlemen. This next game is my absolute favorite Scooby-Doo game of all time. Go ahead and spoil it for you guys. I apologize, but 9 of 100 Frights. God, oh man, I love this game so much. Just listen to this trailer. Yeah, I added the whole trailer in there. What's it to you? There are a lot of games out there that I'm sure people will defend to the day that they die. This is that game for me. Where do I even begin with this game? First of all, I absolutely grew up playing this. I could never get enough of this game. I'd play it for hours. Not to mention, this is probably one of the longest Scooby-Doo games you're ever going to find in your life. There is so much to do in here. This one is the first of what a lot of people were calling a trilogy for the new games. There were 3 video games that came out over the span of 4 years in the mid-2000s, and this was the first one that we got. And my gosh, we hit it off with a bang. This game was released in 2002 on all the major consoles out there, and it got a lot of critical success to that. And for good reason. A lot of people may be like, why is this your favorite game? Dude, just listen to me right here and I'll explain it for you. First of all, look how interactive this is. It's set in a whole new world environment where you can explore anything that you want. It's not a mission-based game. This takes on a very similar approach to what Spider-Man 2 took on, or any of the Hulk games from the mid-2000s, which is something you didn't see a whole lot. There are so many different places you could go to throughout this game, whether it's a mansion or a lighthouse or a haunted house, whatever the case may be, you can go there and explore it. And each place has just amazing graphics, amazing enemies, just oh my god. Yeah, I'm glazing the hell out of this game. What's it to you? The game is very simple. You literally follow a storyline of Scooby-Doo going up to this woman's house, and her cousin or uncle, whatever it was, has disappeared. He's a scientist who came up with a lot of really cool inventions, but he all of a sudden disappeared. Throughout the game, you could go and find all the scientists' inventions like a helmet or bubble gum or just springs, something that's going to help you periodically throughout the game. Throughout the game, you can also go and collect a lot of Scooby snacks, and these Scooby snacks can be used to find your way to get past different parts of the game. You're going to have these weird little objects in front of you in some of the parts of the game you want to continue in, and you have to have a certain amount of Scooby snacks to get in there. So it's very important that you collect as many as you can. It's very, key to the success of the game. This is also the first Scooby-Doo game that you can actually attack the enemies and kill them. Scooby-Doo can either jump on them and bounce on their heads to kill them, or he can use his helmet as he charges right towards them and destroys them. Now, you don't get the helmet until like the third mission of the game, so for a little while you have to just run away scared, but that's just Scooby-Doo's nature, am I right? This is also the first Scooby-Doo game that you play solely as Scooby-Doo. There's no other characters to play as periodically throughout the game, and that's going to be kind of rare moving forward for the remainders of the game, but Scooby-Doo's riding solo in this one. That's not to say that you don't interact with other characters throughout here. There are many different levels where you need Shaggy to help you get past certain points of the game. You'll even run into Velma, Daphne, Fred, the whole gang. You'll run into every single one of them eventually, and they'll all definitely try to help you out. The environments are so freaking beautiful for this game too. Like, look at this mansion. Look how much attention to detail they had throughout here. And this is just one of many different places you're going to go to throughout this game. And like I said earlier, get used to seeing them Scooby snacks, because boy, are you going to be seeing them everywhere. And like I said, if you want to continue in this game, you got to collect damn near every single one of them. But if you don't want to collect just the snacks themselves, they also have different boxes you could get that contain like, I don't know, like up to 20 different snacks. So that's pretty useful in the long run. Not to mention the character models and the voice acting really isn't that bad in this game, but don't take my word for it. Listen to some of this great acting.
Crabs, Runa salad, jumbo shrimp, Runa sushi.
All right, you two, don't forget the real reason we're here.
Lobster bisque.
No, silly. We're here to solve a mystery.
Raw.
My friend Holly says there's strange goings-on up here at her family home, Mystic Manor.
Honestly, outside of the fact that it sounded like they were talking through a walkie-talkie, it's not that bad, and it's kind of spot on for when it comes to Scooby-Doo. But that's not even the best part, people. This game somehow managed to get the infamous Tim Curry to be in here and voice the main villain of the game.
Ah, the infamous Scooby-Doo. Allow me to introduce myself. I am the Mastermind.
Now, I know I'm not the only one with goosebumps after hearing that voice and that dramatic intro. Just wow.
I'm the reason you're here.
You are?
I'm the one who made Professor Graham disappear.
You did?
I'm also the one who's brought back all of your old foes.
But why?
That is a mystery you will never solve. And one more thing, I'm the one who's kidnapped all your friends.
Just like, wow, like, guys, am I the only one that's noticing how great this game truly is? Like, that was freaking amazing. So before you guys lose your mind over me self-glazing the hell out of this game, let's continue on with a little bit of this. So, there really isn't any levels in particular that you go to. Let's just say you kind of go periodically through the map. You're going to have to go through one area to get to the next one. There's even going to be sometimes you got to go to a completely random place that you haven't gone to in a minute, but it's all worth it in the end. And there are a lot of boss battles throughout this game. Some of them are pretty fun. Some of them are really creative, but they're all very simple and very easy to come by. But for me, one of the biggest things about this entire game is easily the soundtrack. I can listen to this soundtrack at any point of my day. If I'm on a long car ride, I'll even listen to some of this too. I grew up playing this game so much that I can almost, even though there's no physical lyrics, I can almost hum the entirety of each different song. There's just so much attention to detail to this game that you could tell the developers genuinely watched the show, know the characters, know the environment, just know the feel of classic Scooby-Doo, and all came together to make this game, which just makes it that much more better and more enjoyable as a video game lover. This is easily going to get an S tier in my rankings, as this is not only one of my favorite Scooby-Doo games, this is one of my favorite video games of all time. And at any point in time throughout the day or in my life, I could take the time to play the entirety of this game, no matter how old I am, no matter how bored I am. I will bust out my PS2 and replay the entirety of this game at any point in time and have little problem doing it. That's how much I enjoy this game. And as much as I would love to just sit here and continue to glaze over it and talk so much about it, I unfortunately have to talk about other video games because there's many more games out there to play. So hopping into the next one, we have Scooby-Doo Mystery Mayhem.
Are back. Play as either Shaggy or Scooby. Use disguises to sneak past ghosts.
Now, this game is wildly different from Night of 100 Frights. First of all, you're playing as Scooby and Shaggy in this game, which I think is a really interesting touch throughout here, but it's not set in an open world environment. There are 5 chapters you play through in this game, and each one of them brings on a different location. The graphics and the location are just as good as Night of 100 Frights, but for this one, it just feels not as organized, but a little bit more straight to the point. Whereas Night of 100 Frights felt like it gave you a little bit more freedom to do whatever you want in an open world environment, this one feels like it kind of is like a straight objective that you have to complete in order to move forward in this game. In Night of 100 Frights, if you didn't have enough Scooby snacks, you could go to any type of world that you want and go back and redo it. Not in this one. You have to complete the objectives to continue on to the next level, unfortunately. Playing as Shaggy or Scooby really doesn't make a difference on how you progress throughout this game, as there are very few points where you have to play specifically as Scooby or Shaggy. But it is a very interesting touch being able to play as Shaggy throughout this game. I know this isn't the first one that you get to play as him, but he's a very interactive character. I'd say if there was any upgrade from Night of 100 Frights, it would easily be the cutscenes. I mean, just look at how beautiful this thing is. The gameplay and mechanics for some reason just feels very restricted in this game. You're very limited to the actions that you can do. And the biggest thing I have to point out is the fact that you can't jump. Like this gate I was just at, I couldn't jump over that. I had to go around it with a door. I've never played a video game before in my entire life where I couldn't jump somewhere. And for some reason, this is the game that you can't jump. Quite honestly, the only thing you're capable of doing in this game is legit just running and pushing buttons in order to opening doors. Your only form of defense in this game / attack is opening a book. I'm not kidding. This book that they're holding is called the Tome of Doom, and basically you open this around all the ghosts and ghouls that you go around, and that like captures them into the book. But there's a catch. You have to have that enemy specific page, and you find it periodically throughout the levels. This is kind of repetitive when you think about it, because in order to defeat any of the enemies, you have to physically go out of your way to grab something to defeat them. That's kind of poor gameplay mechanics, and it's just stupid. And not to mention, it's incredibly repetitive. But honestly, outside of that, everything else is, I guess it's okay. It's just average. There's nothing really that stands out about this game. Now, I did grow up playing this game, and look, I enjoyed it, not as much as Night of 100 Frights, but I did enjoy this game, and it just feels like, I don't know, it's restricting you from succeeding. Not only are the gameplay and defense mechanisms trash, but it also doesn't give you a good clue as to what to do. Half of this game feels like you're just guessing as to what the next part is, and that was a big problem I had growing up. They don't tell you what to do. Like, for example, the level that I'm showing you playing right now is horrible at explaining what to do. And this is half of the level, is literally running around this desert storm find the objectives. But it's so difficult to do that because there's no arrows, no indicators, none of that. Outside of that, the game does have like its own minigame type adventures, I guess. Like, for example, the one that I'm playing right now, you play as either Scooby or Shaggy and you go and get the most food. Whoever gets the most food wins and moves forward, I guess. I really don't know. There's also like a coal mine thing where you go through it and try not to get hit. I don't know. The minigames aren't that bad. All in all, the game itself, I think it's enjoyable, but it's definitely like, I don't know, it's a lot lesser known. This game is not as widespread as the previous one. The gameplay and maps and locations really aren't that bad, for being honest. There's only 5 chapters amongst this game, and every single chapter brings a different environment. And each one honestly looks better than the last. To go upon that, every single chapter ends off with a boss battle. Now, like I said earlier, this game is limiting itself as to what you could do in those boss battles because you can't physically attack anybody and you can't jump over any obstacles. They're also somewhat wildly different. Like, for example, the one that I'm playing right now is in a library, and there's a fake guy in a ghost costume that's chasing you, but you don't physically defeat him. You gotta obtain the ghosts amongst the library, and once you defeat all the ghosts, you defeat him. That doesn't make a lot of sense, honestly, and it's hard to kind of catch some of these ghosts because they literally go through walls. So it's very hard to pinpoint where the guy is at and how we're going to tackle on these ghosts. And I don't even consider this one a boss battle. You're literally just running away from a guy in a night suit 3 different times around the same area until you eventually manage to push the right lever and stop him from coming after you. Throughout there, you can get objects to stop you, but that's not going to stop him altogether. And then there's this one, the Dirt Devil Gobbler thingy one. Yeah, these Ferris wheels going like 100 miles an hour, and it's shooting out all these tornado devil thingies, and the only way to defeat the big one at the top is if you destroy all the ferrets. So, I guess that makes sense. I don't know. There's also a little plot twist. They have all of the characters from the game are stuck on there flying. It's kind of funny. But hey, at least the voice acting isn't that bad.
All right, we're almost there.
Where? In the mall shop?
Don't you guys ever think of anything else?
Sure, like sometimes we think of breakfast. Or lunch.
Yeah, lunch.
So what's the story this time?
My old neighborhood librarian, Mr. Dinsdale, has just been put in charge of the Hambridge University Library.
In the end, Mystery Mayhem is not by any stretch a terrible game, but it's one of those that leaves you with a lot of question marks. It feels like you're very restricted from doing hardly any basic game mechanics that you have in any other video game, but at the same time it is very enjoyable and it does stay true to the Scooby-Doo show itself. That being said, really just depends on how you view it. If you find that enjoyable, good for you, but if you find this to be a mediocre game at best, then I don't blame you. All in all, this game is going to get a B on the tier list. It's definitely a game you should try, and I'm sure a lot of people grew up playing it, but if you didn't and you haven't really gotten around to it, it's probably best you play some other games ahead of this one. As for the next game, this one's a very intriguing one. It's wildly different from the first 2 games, and this one is titled Scooby-Doo Unmasked. Basic controls for this game have returned, like jumping, like literally just watch me double jump. It never felt so good to hit that X button. The difference with this game is it's not done in chapters. It's one big story altogether that you play in this open world environment. The main story for this one is that the gang is going to see Fred's cousin Jed, who is a special effects movie studio called Mr. Monstrous Fright. Once they get there, Jed is missing, and nobody could seem to find him. So throughout the game, you're just looking pretty much to find out exactly where Jed is. Unfortunately, a majority of his animatronics that he had made for the movie studio have gone AWOL and are looking to just kill anything in sight. There's also this weird device called Mubber that was invented. I guess it turns people into different animatronic suits or something. Scooby eventually does use it, and throughout the game, you can play as different points of Scooby-Doo. You can do karate, Scooby, you can do Shell. There's many different costumes you can wear throughout this game, which I think is a really big bonus texture. Now, since I was able to bring back combat into this game, let's dive a little bit into that. It's actually remarkably well. You have your basic attacks, which is just really just a spin move from Scooby. You have an air attack, you have a ground attack. There are many different ways you can take down enemies, and honestly, it's really fun. The beat 'em up bad guys portions of the game are really easy to play. Most enemies go down after the first couple of punches, nothing too repetitive, something very easy. There's a lot of obstacles and platforming throughout this game, and it could be a little buggy. You're going to see a lot of times that there's going to be a lot of failure throughout this game. You're going to fall through the floor sometimes, you're going to miss a platforming area, and you're going to have to restart back to the checkpoint that you were given in. The camera work also does not really do you a lot of favors in this game, as it is supposed to follow Scooby, but it seems like it has a mind of its own sometimes, leading you to jump off of cliffs or just fall into an area you're not supposed to. And really honestly, the environment for this game is actually beautiful. They did a really good job in designing each and one of these levels into their own basic little thing. At the end of each level, you're supposed to go and find these little clues right here. And once you find a majority of them, you can continue. Not only that, you also look for sandwich ingredients that you could do a little mini game with Shaggy. He'll make you up another costume, he'll make you up some food, whatever the case may be. Once you come up with enough ingredients, he'll make your own special food, which doesn't really add on to anything in the game, but it's really just fun to collect. The various clues that you find throughout each game will help you go and unlock different things at the very end of the game in the main menu screen, so the side things really aren't that big a deal, but I'm sure they're fun to collect whenever you're playing it. It feels like the boss battles for this game are wildly similar to Mystery Mayhem. They both have a very similar health bar, and even though you could physically attack the enemy at this point, it still feels like you're kind of restricted. You almost have to wait for an enemy to come to you in order to attack it. However, the arenas that you're playing the boss battles in are always really cool. This one right here has these weird purple lights. It looks like we're on a roof, and the boss himself is actually pretty badass. It's a really big dragon that looks really cool, and I really can't complain about this. Not to mention, this costume right here is the dojo costume that you can unlock, where you could use different karate moves on different enemies, and also this weird power blast that Scooby keeps blasting. They really don't take up too much of your time either. They're pretty simple and easy, and it really takes probably less than 5 minutes to take down each boss if you know what you're doing. Some of them could be a little bit more complicated than others, but really nothing too difficult. So gameplay, mechanics, bonus features, different character designs, and even level designs are all good, but how is the voice acting? Because you know that's actually a pretty big part to me and has a soft spot in my heart.
So, have you found any clues?
Yes, thanks to Scooby. According to this surveillance tape, the park has been...
It'll sure be good to see my cousin Jed again.
I can't wait to meet him.
Like, what does Jed do, Fred?
He makes monsters.
Monsters? You know what? I just remembered I've got something on the stove, and me and Scoob have to go back.
Relax, you scaredy cats. Jed works for a special effects studio. They make fake monsters.
Well, here we are. Monstrous Fright and Magic. Monsters while you wait.
Sure. And like, do you mind if we wait in the van?
This actually had me rolling. So the voice acting for the game isn't terribly bad. It's actually pretty good, and I think Shaggy's voice actor is the best one of them all. All in all, this game isn't really a bad game, but at the same time, it just feels like there really isn't anything too special about it. I mean, it definitely sticks out in form of development and different parts of it, but I don't really see this game as a groundbreaking game. I know Night of 100 Frights really set the bar really high for me, and this game is definitely a close second. It's very far ahead of Mystery Mayhem, that's for sure, but for some reason it just, I don't know, I didn't feel fulfilled playing this game again. When I played it when I was younger, I still had the exact same feeling, so I guess it's just me, or maybe the game isn't that good. I'm going to give this game a C tier. This is a game that I definitely recommend you playing, and even as an adult, you can actually have a lot of fun playing it, because it's very easy, it's not difficult to get around, tells you what to do, and it kind of is an enjoyable game. So give it a C tier, but I'm sure there's better games out there to play. Now, this next game is one that is wildly different compared to every single other one. This one's called Scooby-Doo who's watching who. This was a very odd game because it wasn't released on the mainline consoles. It was only released on PSP and the Nintendo DS, which is a very odd choice, but those were two consoles that were popping off at the time of the release for this game, which was 2006. I gotta credit the game developers for trying to take a different route besides just the basic games that everybody else was playing. This one really doesn't feel like a Scooby-Doo game, actually, like, at all. I mean, look at these characters. Who the hell even are these guys? They're based off of like some kind of like Japanese movie game. And look at Shaggy. Look at Freddy. I guess it's just the video game textures, but the models just look wildly insane. It's like the game developers didn't even know what Scooby-Doo was, just gave him a couple of contexts and different files to you that said, here, can you make this into a Scooby-Doo game? And like, oh, hell yeah, sure, absolutely. This one, it takes over is pretty much similarly as Unmasked. You collect these Scooby snacks. In fact, I think the Scooby snacks little icon was actually continued on from Unmasked, but whatever. In this game, you're collecting Scooby-Doo tags, you're collecting snacks, and you're just basically fighting any kind of enemy that's ahead of you. I'm sorry if this is laggy and a little glitchy. The emulator that I was playing this on was definitely not the best, and I was not about to play this game on an actual PSP. And this is also the PSP port I was playing on the emulator because the Nintendo DS one is wildly different, and I'm not about to dive into that. But either way, this just feels... I don't know. It's very cool. You either play as Scooby or... well, that's it. There's this cool little race car moment right here where you can play as this thing and ride around in sewers, I guess. And of course, there's going to be some times where you're playing as Scooby and Shaggy, even though you're really just holding on to Shaggy. And you're just running away from different monsters that are chasing after you, which feels like they just found every single villain from the Scooby-Doo movies and said, screw it. Let's just put it all in one game. Surely the kids won't notice. Right? They're still going to play this dumb garbage. No. Children did not play this game. This game did not come out to very good success, probably because of the fact that it was only released on handheld devices and not actual consoles. Like I said earlier, it's a very bold strategy that the developers took to make this game, and it didn't really work out. While a lot of children are playing, definitely Scooby-Doo games, they're not getting it on a handheld device. If I had a Nintendo DS growing up, the only thing I was playing was either Mario Kart, Lego games, or some superhero games. I was never looking forward to a Scooby-Doo game. And there really isn't too much to this game. You're either playing as Scooby, running around some weird town, interacting with other people, or you're playing as that race car thing that I showed earlier, or you're being chased by random monsters with Shaggy in your hands. And the objective is literally just to run away. I don't get it. Now, like I said in every other game we've played, how is the voice acting? Because ultimately, it all comes down to that. It actually doesn't, but it's a soft spot to me. There's something very, very irritating that I find about the cutscenes in this game, and I'll let you see if you can figure it out before I say anything.
Fans of your work.
That episode where you used carbon-14 dating to determine that the forgery was actually authentic was genius.
We just called it brilliant, but we're modest. Called it brilliant, but we're modest.
Oh my god, that doesn't even remotely match what they're saying. They're literally just jumbling and moving their mouths.
There you are, Scoob.
He's with us. Scooby helps us solve
The
mysteries.
only mystery I have going on here is why the hell they couldn't even develop the voice actors to sound like the characters they're playing as, or why the hell their mouths can't even remotely match what they're saying. Like, I know it's a low-budget game and it's clear as day, but guys, can we please put a little bit more effort into this? That is so fucking aggravating. I'm sorry, that bothers me so much. Not to mention, the camera work looks incredibly blurry. Like, I hate when movies do that weird filter thing. Now this video game is taking over it, and what's the excuse for that? Like I said, low budgeting? That's not an excuse. And I'll be completely honest, I didn't really grow up with a PSP. I grew up with damn near every other console except a PSP, so I never really even crossed paths with this game. To be honest, I didn't even know this game even existed until doing some research for it, and I had to go find an emulator to play it on the PSP port. I didn't even know this game existed even though I had a Nintendo DS. I still never added this game to my collection and played it. And playing it as an adult, I can definitely tell I wasn't missing out on much over here. Like I said, this doesn't even have the feeling of a Scooby-Doo game. It feels like a whole different entity of something that Sony put together, like a mild adventure game and just cram Scooby-Doo right down the middle of it. Even the mainline characters don't feel like they're even belonging in here. Everyone feels so out of place. And I guess that's just the game's design, texture, and attitude. Especially how they treat the main characters like they're side characters throughout the game. What kind of game does that? So ultimately, I'm going to give Scooby-Doo Who's Watching Who a D ranking. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of effort put into this game. It really feels like it was kind of rushed. Like they just went up to the game developers and like, hey, we need a Scooby-Doo game for the PSP and the Nintendo DS. Stat, shit it out right now, and this is what we got. It's a little buggy, it's glitchy, their story doesn't make a lot of sense, the characters are annoying, it just doesn't add up. So I'm going to give this a D list, so don't play this game if you want. Play a bunch of other games that I've reviewed so far. Now, Who's Watching Who is the last video game in really the genre of the original Scooby-Doo franchise. The next game I'm talking about takes on its brand new twist to the Scooby-Doo universe, and that game is easily Scooby-Doo First Frights. I loved this game growing up. It is so different compared to the other Scooby-Doo games we've played in the past. The biggest example is the fact that the mainline characters are all in their younger years. They're all teenagers in this game, hence the name First Frights. Yeah, I know. And the base of this game is basically just the earlier stages of the gang, some of their first, mysteries they solved, how they first really came together, look at them at a younger age, and it's really a fun game. It's 2-player, it's co-op, and if you don't have a friend to play with you, AI will take the wheel for the other one, and it's a basic combat game, like as you see here, just attacking and jumping over different obstacles. You collect a shit ton of Scooby snacks throughout the game, which is a really cool bonus. You play as every single character amongst the mystery gang, where you use Fred, Velma, Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby. You don't get to pick the characters that you play as throughout each level. Whatever character pops up in the level of the story is who you're playing as, but each character has pretty much the same abilities, some different than others, but they pretty much are all the same. I mean, there's a few bonus items from each character, like Daphne does a swing kick, Scooby uses this giant sausage link to attack people, Shaggy has a slingshot, various different things, but they all pretty much are cut from the same cloth. They all do the same thing, just a basic special attack move, nothing really different. One of the more fascinating styles of this game is the animation. It's amazing. They took a very big different take compared to what we're used to in these Scooby-Doo games, but it freaking works, dude. Like, just look at these characters. It looks like it's based straight out of a comic book. And the graphics and the level designs, everything about it is amazing. Every single one of these levels has separate chapters that are labeled amongst different parts of the areas that you're in. And you're going to play as different characters throughout pretty much every single level of the chapter. You would think that Scooby-Doo is a consistent character, but he's not. You're going to play as Daphne and Fred, or Scooby and Velma, Shaggy and Velma, whatever the case may be, whatever the story pairs you with. Not to mention, I think that damn near every single story includes one of these chase sequences where you're playing as Scooby or Shaggy and literally just running away from whoever's chasing after you. These were easily my favorite parts of the game growing up. For some reason, I just love the chase sequences, running around. You basically just jump over the obstacles and don't die. That's another thing in this game is I don't think you could die. There really isn't a big health bar. I mean, there is, but whenever it drains, you don't really die. Like, you kind of just respawn from whatever checkpoint you're in. And I don't really mess with that in a lot of these games. Like, if I'm going to die, punish me, okay? If I'm losing, punish me. Don't just bring me back to a next area, That's kind of aggravating. I guess it's just me, but whatever. There's also a wide multitude of costumes you're going to switch around in this game with the different characters. You're never going to play as just the character in their usual outfit. You're always going to have, in the later levels, a different costume. Like this one right here, Shaggy is supposed to be some kind of, I guess, a space unit or something with one of these cool little space guns. The only one that doesn't change outfits is honestly Scooby, and that's kind of shocking despite him being the main character of the story, but he's the only one that doesn't switch. And so far in this game, everything has been going really well so far. The video game is great, the graphics, the character designs, the levels, it's not too difficult, but ultimately, how is that voice acting?
Wow, a little on edge?
Sorry, Velma. Like we haven't eaten since the snack after lunchtime snack.
The Keystone Castle International Food Festival.
Sounds like it could be a fun type of vacation.
It's beautiful. Look at the amazing scenery.
And there's even an...
Yeah, I honestly don't get why the hell these guys are younger in this game, and yet their voices sound exactly the same as they do in every other video game. Like, I can respect getting the same voice actor, whatever, but guys, you can't even stay true to the concept that y'all are coming up with. That just doesn't make any sense. But besides the not so great voice acting, I gotta say, the game itself is very fun. I remember playing this a lot growing up and having a very fun time doing it. It really takes on a different approach to what we've seen in all the other games, but I think it works out really well. If you enjoy different kind of Scooby-Doo games and just something kind of thinking outside the box, then this is the game for you. I'm going to give this a B on the tier list because it definitely is very fun. It's not the best Scooby-Doo game I've ever played, but without a doubt is one you shouldn't sleep on either. Now, the next game on the Scooby-Doo list is unfortunately the last Scooby-Doo game that has ever been created, and that is Scooby-Doo and the Spooky Swamp. This game serves as a direct sequel to First Frights, and it's definitely just kinda as good as First Frights, but for some reason it just feels like a little bit of a downgrade. There's only a 1-year difference between these two. First Frights came out in 2009, and this one came out in 2010. They both released on the exact same consoles, PC, PS2, and the Nintendo Wii. Now, look, I don't want to say this game was rushed, because I don't think it was, despite the 1-year difference, but I don't know, it just feels like kind of like a rinse and repeat from the previous games. This one was just different levels, and I don't know, every other Scooby-Doo game felt like each one was a different entity amongst the Scooby-Doo franchise. They didn't follow the same tropes or anything from the previous games, yet this one consistently does that, and it just feels like I'm playing First Frights except a little continuation of it. When I'm looking for another Scooby-Doo game, I'm not looking for the same damn thing, rinse and repeat. And it really does suck that this was the last one to release. We're sitting in 2025, it's been 15 years, and we still haven't gotten another Scooby-Doo game. And it really sucks that this is the last one. Not necessarily leaving on a bad note, but a very disappointing one. In this game, it's pretty much the exact same thing as what we saw in the previous game. Very similar character designs, very similar context, very similar textures to everything. The only noticeable difference I could find in this game is the fact that you're able to play as whatever character you want whenever you want. Okay, maybe not every single character, but you could definitely switch amongst the game if you want to be playing as Shaggy in this level or you want to be playing as Scooby-Doo if they're available. There are going to be some levels throughout this game where you can't choose certain characters because they're just not a part of the story or they're having problems or whatever the case may be, and that's totally fine. And I really do fuck with that idea because that's a pretty good idea, having to be able to choose any character that you want. That was one of the problems I had in the previous game, was that you were directly playing whoever the story had you playing, and that just kind of sucks. With all that being said, this is still not a terrible game, despite it not really being lazy but kind of lackluster in terms of development. It really does kind of set the tone that the first game set, and it really isn't too terrible. It just feels like a rinse and repeat from the first one. The stories are really cool. The El Macho story is really cool. They got a bunch of different new levels you can go through, different areas, and it isn't a terrible game. It's just, I was kind of expecting something fresh, something new. First Frights brought something extremely fresh and new, and I'm guessing it may or may not have popped off a little bit too much because we got a direct sequel to it, which isn't a bad thing depending on who you ask. So basically the game is pretty much exactly the same, but what about the voice actors? Did that change in the slightest?
Me too. Like I am done with other people's mysteries. From now on, it's you and me, Scoob, hunting down the biggest mystery of all. Hello? Yeah, the mysterious sounds coming from my empty stomach.
They finally changed Shaggy's voice actor. Thank you.
Oh, man. Like you smell that? Let's go, Scoob.
Jinkies, a holiday? We can squeeze that into our schedule. Bye.
Who was that, Velma?
Costington.
Jeepers, we haven't seen him since the food festival.
I'll go grab the guy.
Well, I guess they can't all be winners, as they ultimately ended up keeping the other voice actors, but screw it. You know what? That's it. Shaggy's voice actor changed. He's a mainline character. that's good. In all seriousness, though, the voice acting is pretty much exactly the same. Shaggy does sound a little bit younger, and I don't understand where his old voice actor went, but whatever. I'm not going to complain too much about it. So, all in all, this game isn't terrible. If you've played first Frights, you've played this game, and that's why I'm talking so little about it. Like I said, it's a rinse and repeat of the previous game. Just a little bit more expanded, a little bit more controls, and maybe just a little bit more voice acting from the Shaggy end. Everything else is pretty much the same. So, much like First Frights, I'm going to give this game a B on the tier list, because it isn't terrible. It's just a carbon copy of the game right before it. But nevertheless, still a very fun and creative game. And if you like this little 2-game trilogy thingy that the Scooby-Doo games came out with, then good for you. Now, unfortunately, like I said, this is the very last Scooby-Doo game to have released up until this point. This game is now turning 15 years old at this point, and don't have any plans whatsoever of making another Scooby-Doo game. We've had a couple movies released since then, but nothing in the video game department. And that really sucks because, like I said, I grew up playing all these games. And there really isn't too many when you really think about it. So, unfortunately, this is the end of the line. Not only for that, but also for this video, because I ranked a lot of Scooby-Doo games. I took a lot of time playing these damn games and reviewing them. So, this was very time-consuming, and now I've gone back nostalgia too far, and I don't want to see Scooby-Doo for a very long time. But if you guys enjoyed this video, I want y'all to make sure to smash that like button and consider subscribing. I'm going to continue making more content like this. You guys are awesome in the comment sections, leading me in the right direction on where my channel should be heading, and I really do appreciate all the positive feedback starting out this brand new item on my channel. So thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.